This is Dungeon Not Included, the actual play podcast for the adventurous listener.
Welcome back to Dungeon Not Included, where we are playing Tears of a Machine. We had our exciting volleyball episode last episode.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get some big robot fights, I guess. So
that's the goal. That's the goal anyway. Yeah. So the big volleyball focus of last episode does mean that your group got to run some other people through their paces and stretch your legs a little bit. Why don't we do what I always like to do when I kick off a session and just ask everybody to take a quick look at their character sheet. And I just want you to kind of read through the identity, the first sentence of your character. So, Noah X, who are you?
I'm that fearless refugee who's good at empathizing, discovering, and deceiving. Justice matters to me.
Very good. Very good. Salem, who are you?
I am Salem Byrne, a 20-year-old holistic outsider pilot, good at discovering, shooting, and disturbing.
Very good. Very good. All right. And Fatima, who are you?
I am Fatima Shervani, a 19-year-old brash troublemaker, good at intruding, fighting, and protecting.
Excellent. Good. I always like to do this kind of like a little bit of a refresh to get things going, because today we're going to have even more fun, because we're going to have to start looking at the lower half of those character sheets because it's time for a big robot fight. Mm-hmm. So as you remember kind of from the structure of the game, scenes have beats. Basically kind of like the significance of the scene. And the more important the scene, the more beats it takes up. We started out with 6 beats at the beginning. We've ticked our way through them with a series of actions. So now we are at what is called the crisis of the episode. Every episode has to have a crisis. And in the case of the Tears of a Machine, most of the time, that means a giant robot attack. Could be other things. Maybe it is a really intense volleyball tournament, or a huge argument, or just people, punching each other. But I think we all know what we're here to see tonight. So let's get into that. Let's see. We kind of settled things up a little bit with Noah, and basically you're trying to patch up some relationships in order to reduce the troubles that you were under. I know that that was really more Fatima's deal, right? So
that I had troubles? Yes.
Yes, you do have several troubles, actually. All right. So we might still have to contend with those later. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So for right now, after all of that, back and forth and trying to meet up and talk things through with Marta, et cetera, you're back in class. You're back going through your ordinary day. When I say class, I mean you're all, of an age that you're preparing for sort of your professional career, whether that's continuing on in the preservation force or that's trying to find something else to do. So a lot of the career counseling is like, hey, what are you going to do with your the rest of your life? You kind of have an advantage over other, people your age, because, hey, you are connected to probably the best funded organization left in the world with access to the highest technology, which is why a lot of people who sort of come up in the preservation force stay there, because, it's comfortable. It's nice at the top. That of course does come with the trade-off. As your professor works his way through, a course about infrastructure management, that seems to be a thing that they really want to hammer home to you. There is an alarm that sounds throughout the academy buildings. Everybody, quickly takes a look down at their link devices, their little smartphones, and, begin looking to see, okay, who's on order for what, who's being called up to do. The professor immediately quiets down, steps back as what was the blackboard switches over to a view screen. on which you can see, the commander, the command deck, and all the support staff now kind of running back and forth behind him, kind of in outline of that. So Commander Merrick makes the announcement that a Ven attack is underway, that we are going to be moving to defend against this attack, and for all Saint pilots to immediately report for deployment at the hangar levels. So in addition to the three of you jumping up, of course, the other pilots from from Able Company also step away from their desks, and the six of you start rushing your way through the hallways. Everybody knows when a pilot's coming, so they all step aside out of the way and let you through the hallways of the academy. Your link buzzes with where you need to be and all that sort of thing, in case you suddenly forgot how to walk to the nearest elevator and ride it down to the bottom floor. Everyone's being very, very efficient in supporting this effort as you make your way there. Once the six of you are standing in the elevator together, Samantha, Vikas, and Heike all sort of take up position leaning against one wall of the elevator, kind of leaving room for the three of you to lean against the other wall opposite them. Samantha shoots you a dirty look and then picks up her own link and starts reading through what's being presented there from the commander, sort of a pre-mission briefing. Anybody want to say anything before we hit the bottom deck?
I'm going to read the room as being a little awkward and be like a smug little kid smug bastard who shouldn't, doesn't really need to take a leadership position right now, and say, hey, we're all got this. We're all on the same team
here. Yes, same team. You're right. Samantha looks up at the three and says, "Oh, but wait, separate deployments. So maybe not the same team." She holds up her link and holds it over to you, and it indicates that Able Company will be actually operating separate from the family for this operation. Guess we'll see you on the other side. The door to the elevator slides open. The three of them rush out to their locker room, and three of you are, led over to your locker room. Now there are technicians buzzing around. There are emergency lights flashing on all the walls down here. They funnel you over to your little cubicles where you open up your lockers and you put on your launch suits. It's kind of like a scuba suit, but it's got all this like extra padding on it, for impact concerns if you end up rattling around inside your Saint. They then march you out quickly to the launch decks. Now, over the loudspeakers and so on, there are announcements coming from Commander Merrick, and you're starting to get the picture of what's been going on. So your ARCS was on its way to meet up basically with the ARCS under construction in Philadelphia. The ARCS Ocker, the one that's sort of under construction and soon to be launched. That's what this whole commemoration event is about, is you being present for that. So Ocker is still under construction and is considered a pretty high value target, it's expected by the Ven. But not only that, there's a lot of supplies and equipment and so on flowing into Philadelphia in order to support that construction effort. So the Ven have launched their attack and are, deployed their robotic units from orbit and above. And so the plan is to separate the Saint companies into two different groups. One will fly directly to the ARCS Ocker to form a defensive perimeter there, and the other will actually be launched out to meet a transport convoy that's on its way to Philadelphia now, which has now become a target of the Ven attack force. that's going to be you guys. The three of you going to launch out and meet up with that transport convoy and basically see them safely to Philadelphia. So once you're in your flight suits, they put a little golden crown on your head, the halo that connects your mind up to the Neuralink system that works through the Saint. They step you into these big tanks, which start to fill up with suspension gel, which is, warmed to skin temperature in order to help balance out sensory deprivation and all that kind of thing. And it also thickens to be impact resistant because you're going to be flying very fast speeds. You're going to be, thrown around in several 100 tons of metal. So they want to try and do what they can to cushion you against that any nasty impact. Now, of course, you can't breathe that stuff. So they actually put a respirator over your mouth and begin pumping in an oxygenated fluid that you'll have to breathe, which is also uncomfortable and unfortunate. But hey, it's what's got to be done to keep your fragile human body safe as you are loaded into your Saint. The capsule is closed over your head, and you start going through your meditation exercises to relax yourself. You start to drift away, falling asleep. There's like rumbling noises that are somewhere outside that you can't quite make out. And then you wake up gradually, slowly. It's not the kind of waking up where you open your eyes. It's the kind of waking up where like sort of the whole world starts to materialize around you and in all sorts of different ways. One of the gifts of being in a Saint is that it has a sensor array suite that's really unlike anything a human being experiences. I mean, yes, you can see things, you can hear things, but you can also just sort of break down the chemical composition of anything around you. You can recognize sounds just through the tremors that they cause in the surface that you're standing on. You have the ability to see X-rays if you want to. All of that stuff is there, but filtered through years of training so that your brain can process this wave of sensory information that comes washing in. And then there's the physical sensation, just all of this energy and power and so on that's sort of, standing behind you at the ready. You recognize that you now weigh, several hundred tons. You are a gigantic metal machine, but you can move just as deftly and easily as, as you could when you were on the volleyball court earlier. There's these gigantic weapons, that are they're fixed to your back or, held in your holsters. But you are perfectly ready and able to, lift a gun the size of a truck and wave it around. So why don't we take a quick moment and introduce your Saints before you launch? So tell me your Saint's name. Go ahead and just read off the Saint portion of your character sheet. Let's start with Noah.
I have, let's see, I pilot the Saint I'm hearing a little feedback. I'm not sure who that's on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It starts when I unmute myself, but I have headphones plugged
Weird.
in, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Well, I pilot the Saint Tigana in a family company. I didn't update this from after we named ourselves. Family company. I equip Tiamat missile array for mass destruction, Shadowgate for teleportation through mysterious planes. I think that's what that full sentence is, probably. Our mysterious plane, and the brain gun, which projects my mind into a remote target.
Excellent. So during this operation, you are Tigana. It's not just, a call sign. It is your Saint. And right now, you are the brain inside the Saint's body. Tigana is your body. So that's why you'll be referred to as Tigana during the deployment. Right. Okay, Salem, tell us about your saintly form.
So I've changed the design a little bit since last time because I was looking up different kinds of shrikes. So I pilot the Saint Shrike in Family Company. I equip an RTMS bow for long range, screamers for medium range, and skates for evasion. I decided to go with like a crimson breasted shrike design. So like the front of the Saint has like bright red, and then the back is like black with like white stripes along the arms. and my helmet is like shaped like a bird's head.
That's cool.
Those are good design choices. I approve.
Thank
All
you.
right. Very good. So, Shrike, we are settled. Fatima, tell us about your saint.
I pilot the Saint Mischief in Family Company. I am equipped with spike arc generators, which create lightning balls. I have an interposing shield for blocking damage and archangel wings for flight.
Okay. Good. So the three of you step up to the launch platforms. Basically, a gigantic mass driver cannon. There are rocket boosters that are attached to the backs of your saints, and with the announcement that you are, for everyone to basically prepare for launch, you are fired out of there like the most expensive bullet fired out of a gigantic gun that runs the entire length of the arcs. So all of that just whips by around you, and you are screaming through the air at Mach 3. This is one of those times where you kind of know, you instinctively know a lot of things being in a saint. Without all those defensive measures in place, you would black out right away. But thanks to all the fluid being pumped into your lungs and the current running through that suit that's compressing your limbs in order to keep the blood in your head. That's what keeps you conscious as you fly out there faster than a human being could survive. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what happens in a fight. Now, you already know about when you are, acting in the game. You have your goals for scenes and so on. A crisis scene is basically an elongated scene, so to speak. We have, a goal. The goal is pretty obviously to, defend Earth from the Venator attackers. And what we do is we take that on in parts, in objectives, in smaller pieces. In the case of a giant robot fight, what you are going to be doing is looking to defend or preserve, since you are the preservation force, various targets on, the battlefield. We don't really track like the hit points of enemy units or your own hit points or whatever. It's really, do you rescue more of this collateral from the enemy than they can destroy? So if you look at what's on the Roll20 screen, you'll see, first of all, we have our beats for the fight. We have 9 beats for this fight. So it might go on for quite a while, actually, with 3 beats for each player. We'll see how that shakes out. So we have 9 beats, but you can also see below that I've created a list of targets. So as the 3 of you go screaming out in that direction, the commander and the rest of the strategic forces are explaining to you the situation. Yeah, so there is an overland convoy heading towards Philadelphia. After the Ven attack, there was a lot of infrastructure damage, and in the end, it was cheaper to just rip up the highways and just turn them into really long gravel paths. So that means that this convoy is a lot of huge, heavy-duty trucks, basically, train cars on monster truck wheels, rolling along these destroyed old highways in order to get here. The Ven have keyed in on them, and they've been dropping units from above that are now chasing down after that convoy. The smaller units of the Ven are called the Locust. They actually come in a lot of different shapes, but they generally have sort of an insect-shaped, multiple legs, elongated, torso and abdomen. But instead of a bug's head, instead they have a face with a sort of placid little mask on it. This sort of like human face, like carved off a Renaissance statue or whatever, just placed there at the head of each one. And of course, there are, plasma weapons and so on, bristling from beneath the plates of their armor. And so a horde of those are now chasing down this convoy. A few of the targets are sort of you notice I have some of the targets up towards the top are the ones that are kind of in the most immediate threat of danger. This is what the enemy are sort of already focusing in on. As the battle continues, we'll move from target to target, depending on who does what. And, you'll move to defend them or pick another thing to rescue or so on. But right now, what Command has brought to your attention as being the highest priority are the air support for this this convoy. I mean, of course they have air support. You know, there's a VTOL ship floating overhead of them trying to keep the air clear. Unfortunately, the Venator have what they call WASPs, which are, you know, kind of smaller robots, but they are missiles, in effect, that are now floating around through the air trying to get close enough to demolish the VTOL. There's also an escort tank that is lagging toward the back of the convoy, unable to keep up, and two of these, you know, gigantic beetle robots are racing up behind it, tearing up the ground with their, you know, their huge claws, trying to catch it and drag it away. And an escort troop transport is also now stuck at the back of the convoy, so they are in the greatest danger of being wiped out first. So,
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot
I
going
think,
on.
maybe we should divide up what we want to tackle. I'd like to go for protecting the troops, the troop convoy.
Yeah.
That's something I'd be interested in. Is that okay? Anybody else have something cooler that they want to do with the troop convoy? All right.
Yeah.
What about you two? What do you want to handle?
Since I have the long range stuff, I might be good at helping with air support
Yeah.
so that I can like shoot things out of the sky, right?
Yeah.
I can help with that too because I do have flight. So
Sure. Yeah, you can team up and work on a target together, or you can, you know, separate to work on them. We went over the teamwork rules last week. They work in a similar way. By the way, if you're worried about how quick the convoy is moving and all that, you are, you know, 40 meters tall. You can run very fast because you take very big steps. Right. So keeping up with one of these driving vehicles is not going to be a problem.
Although I would love to see Salem skating after one at one point.
Oh, that's true.
I'm sure that'll come up eventually.
It might come up. All right.
See the animation.
I think we'd be best to divide and conquer at this juncture, and if stuff starts getting overwhelming, we can like team up. So, do you think Fatima would be better for air support or for the escort one?
Keep in mind there's WASPs, so we can narrate that it's a different kind of air fight that's happening with Fatima. Yeah,
true. Yeah, we're pretty flexible with you know how you choose to engage. A Saint can do an awful lot. Even if you don't know how to throw a punch, the Saint knows, and you can kind of just, you know, visualize it happening, and all of these combat computers and, you know, and servo units and all that stuff will take over and make it happen. You just kind of have to want to fight, and the Saint will want to fight for you.
And fundamentally, it's not like that we're dealing with like minis on a map. We're talking about how we want to move through the beats. All right, I'm cool with that.
All right.
Who wants to go first? I Salem, maybe like you want to take the lead for like suppression fire or whatever is coming out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We have to change our bottom thirds to include an extra name. I'm going to do that.
I'm not going to penalize you for it, but I just kind of want to you know, point that out, that I think that is a sort of a feature of.
I like it, and I think it adds. So I'm going to see if I could squeeze more in me.
All right. Why don't you go ahead first, Shrike?
Okay. I will take care of air support then. I think I'm just gonna like use my RTMS bow the Artemis bow to shoot units out of the sky to keep them off of the air support. Okay.
So as with other situations, we want to see what of your traits are helpful in that. So you've described yourself shooting, so obviously your verb shooting is an important one here. What other traits are you able to use to help with this?
I want to sort of like disrupt their attack pattern, so I think disturbing would be a good one. And then I think another good one could be holistic, because I could like take in the whole picture to like decide which ones need shooting down and which ones need like
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we acknowledge the cat on stream?
I don't know.
We did not. I am at a friend's house and they have a cat and she is very chatty. So sorry for the
if you back the Kickstarter, you get to see the cat.
Yes, there you go. There you go. We'll get photos of the cat.
Thousands.
All right. So yes, so Shrike, you detach from your launch unit and sort of drop down the last bit for the superhero landing as you draw your Artemis bow. As you said, you sort of take in the view of things as the convoy comes barreling toward you, you know, and the trucks start screaming by. All of you can already start to hear the chatter from those vehicles, like the radio comms going back and forth of soldiers, like, you know, shouting orders to each other. And even just all this other stuff just kind of washes to you. Like you can already, like, you can smell the exhaust from the vehicles, but you can also just sort of like smell the fear of the soldiers, like in that troop transport, who are desperately trying to figure out how they, you know, they're just leaning out the windows, shooting at this huge robot bug that is bearing down on them. Just all of this, you know, this strange experience that the Saint brings you. But yes, so you drop down, raise your bow and begin taking shots at the enemy. Now, one thing to note is the Saint itself adds another trait to you. I've been telling you about the super sensory information and these, you know, battle computers and all that stuff going for you. So you picked out 3 traits, but the Saint is another one. So you actually have 4 dice to roll for this action.
Very good.
So go ahead and roll 4 fate dice and let's see how you fare. All right, we got a spread here. We got a
2
plus,
pluses and 2 minuses.
Yeah, a plus, a minus, and a minus. Good. All right. So, as with other situations, the first thing we do is we choose the goal result die. Do you get what you want? You know, do you rescue the air support units by shooting down the wasps around them? And you choose your die for that. Will it be the plus or the minus?
I'll take the plus.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice. Yes. So you'll be able to shoot down the wasps, as you said, you know, sort of your holistic understanding of the situation, which allows you to fire sort of like without really aiming as much, just kind of like, you know, perceiving and knowing where they will be as, you know, you pull back on the bow and, you know, launch arrow after arrow after arrow, just, you know, smacking away these little insect things before they're able to latch onto the hull of the VTOL and explode. So that's good. You have rescued that target. But we also need to see what is the cost that you potentially have to pay. Because you played a plus for the goal, you also get to be the one who picks the cost die. So will you use that other plus as your cost, or is a minus going to become part of it?
I'll take the plus. I don't think gaining eco is going to help me right now. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Besides, a minus means that your Saint gets damaged and becomes a target itself. So we might want to hold off on that for a while if we can.
Right.
So we're going to say the VTOL was rescued. Hooray. And that takes 2 beats off the crisis scene. So a good opening salvo there from Shrike. All right. Now, who do we want to see next? Tigana?
I think Mischief, you could go. It makes sense. There's a lot of airplay going on right now.
Okay.
True.
There's still things up in the air?
There are some wasps that are hovering over just about everything. The air support VTOL is in the clear, but there are still plenty of things hovering over and threatening the troop transport and that escort tank. So you could move to defend either of them really, and you'll find targets to hit. Either the the wasps buzzing above them, or the large beetle-shaped ones thundering along the remains of the road behind them.
I'll trust Tigana to take out the ones on the troop transport, and I'll try to rescue the tank.
Sure. Yeah. The tank is swinging its gun back and forth, unable to like draw a bead on these insects, which for all their primitive bug-like intensity, are still able to just kind of leap aside every time it's able to fire its main gun.
Nice. I'm going to come screaming in using my wings to decelerate.
Mm-hmm.
And as I do, basically generating a ball of lightning in my hand. Mm-hmm. And as I come in, I'm just going to smash that into the wasps that are hovering above the tank.
Nice. All right. So what traits are you using Mischief in order to do that? You've already got the one, of course, from your Saint.
I'm using Brash and Fighting.
That's true. Yes, because you're going hand to hand with these things. So that's
and I
good.
think
That's
I can
got
also
you.
use Protecting.
True. Yes, you are moving to defend these. All right, good. So that's four dice. We're in a good shape for this. So yeah, let's see what we get with those 4 fate dice. Okay,
1 plus and 3 blanks.
All right. So yeah, you're still in good shape there. Which die do you want to be your goal?
I'm going to go with a blank, actually, because
Okay.
I have enough trouble already.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, a blank, a blank result means that you get what you want, sort of. In a fight, what it means is you've defended this target, but you haven't like rescued it. It's not free from the possibility of attack. You fought over this target, but it's still potentially on the battlefield and could get hit by a later attack.
Okay.
It's still going to reduce the beat count, just not by 2. It's going to reduce the beat count by 1 instead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the trade-off there. The other thing to note is that if it's not a plus, I get to choose the cost die from your, remaining dice there. Oh, tell the cat we love them. That's cute. So you're still good with the
watching this stream. Maggie is on her lap for a moment. She is
cats always take
asking
over
for attention.
The internet only exists so that we can all worship cats. All right, good.
So you're
I'm
still
gonna use
good,
the
Mischief, with
plus.
the blank.
Yeah, I'm going to use the plus for myself so that I don't get a more ego or.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, remember though, I'm going to be the one who gets to choose the cost die.
Oh, that's right. Okay, and so you can choose a blank.
I could still choose a blank. Yeah.
Okay.
Now remember, you have ego points, but another thing to note: this is another reason where there's another point where saints are different. You have those weapons. The weapons matter to your saint. Your weapons are equipment. They matter to your saint. They aren't traits. They're just ways for you to do things. But there's also a checkbox next to each one. You can uncheck that box and you can, what I call, use up or burn or whatever that piece of gear. And you can use that like an ego point to change the die result. Basically you can force a victory by wrecking your saint's equipment.
And I can use an ego point for that too, right?
Yeah. An ego point will do the same thing. It'll also let you turn a die result. In this case, if that plus is left behind there, you'll spend 1 and get it right back because of the numbers there.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So you'll turn the cost die into a plus, but then with that other plus, you'll gain it right back. Okay. Good. Okay. So you're able to. We kind of did that out of order, but anyway.
That's right.
So using your flight unit, and as you said, you sort of rush through the wasps with lightning, wreathing your hands. You're sort of tearing them out of the sky, and they go skittering and crashing to the ground. You can hear a cheer come up from the escort tank, which is then silenced, however, when another one of those beetles rushes up and sort of sideswipes the thing, knocking it so it rocks back and forth. Doesn't fall off the road yet, doesn't get tipped over, but still under threat. Okay, but you stay safe from any danger in doing that. So, our beats are down to 6, and we need to find out what is happening with Tigana.
So Tigana is focusing in on the troop transport, who very end of the train, most dangerous, most at risk, but probably least valuable because it's just people as opposed to very expensive equipment, or at least that's the math going through Tigana's head. And being a fearless refugee, and is good and can empathize with all the people in that transport who are screaming right now, trying to futilely trying to get the locusts at bay, or like chewing at the side of the transport. So he is going to leap to the back of the line, avoiding all the other obstacles, all the other potential targets, and is going to attempt to pull the transport away from danger and into safety.
Like actually physically grab up the transport and move it.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to move them through the shadow gate, my cloak.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you're going to activate your shadow gate, pick up the vehicle, and pass it through there. All right,
Right.
that sounds interesting.
I'm trying to tag fearless, refugee, and empathizing. Possibly deceiving. I'm not sure how much we're deceiving the locust in this. It depends on how
effective it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you do also get one more for being.
So I'm at 4 as of now, and I will let me flip over to the roll. I'm pretty sure it's RD F, right? For DF.
R4DF.
R4DF. Wow. Ooh. It's the space that I forgot. There he is. Okay.
Good roll. You guys are rolling very well tonight.
Not bad.
So far.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plus, blank, and blank.
Yeah. So I'm going to use that plus for the goal. I'm going to successfully pull them out.
Yep, you pull them out. You pass them through the shadow gate. You see the vehicle. Well, you know where the vehicle materializes away from the fighting on sort of a side road rolling along. Everybody on board, you can hear like sort of the shouts and the shock and all that, and you can feel a slight difference in the distance because their radio communications are still coming across nice and clear to everybody else. So you being a saint know the the added distance of where they are now. You know, far enough away that they are out of the immediate attack of the Venator, though, so they have been rescued. I'm going to move them to the list of stuff that's not under attack right now. Okay,
very nice.
And what about your cost? You get to choose your cost die. You've got plus, and you've got 2 blanks.
I'm going to go with a plus.
All right, good. So no threat or danger to yourself. Yes. Yeah. So the locusts are a little surprised to suddenly have their prey just like, snatched up and vanished away from them. They kind of scramble around looking for a target, trying to figure out what to do. Again, the locusts have a kind of like insectoid intelligence, which does mean that when they recognize a saint, this gigantic towering thing, I mean, they're about the size of a tank, but I mean, you are 40 meters tall. You are, you're Evangelion unit size. So they do tend to scramble and try to get out from under you until they can try and gain some sort of advantage. So they're scrambling around, trying to find something else to attack. All right. So we do have some other targets on here. It looks like things are going very well for the fight, though. You're already down to 4 beats. So, I mean, you rescue 2 more things, and basically the fight's over, right? You've you've beaten back the enemy enough that you've dispirited them. You'll be able to get away. At the front of the convoy, actually, the lead vehicle is what's called a breaker. It's basically a gigantic bulldozer that's there to make sure that there's nothing in the way of this convoy as they're, are racing along, unkempt roadways. And there is a emergency that goes up from that vehicle, that there is debris in front of them. In fact, that debris seems to be Venator units that in the launch from above crashed down miles ahead of the convoy, sort of creating a kind of an ambush. There are craters there that are left in the ground from them, and those locusts are pulling themselves up out of those craters now and kind of, forming up in this line of things. These ones look sort of like crabs, like big pincer claws in front of them that they're raising up to sort of, form kind of a blockade that the bulldozer is racing toward. They don't seem confident that they've got the strength needed to break through that line, though. So at the back, the escort tank still getting harassed, but at the front, the breaker is about to crash up against a group of locusts and would really like some help in making sure it can get through that barrier. So how do our saints wish to act on this? Now, another thing I should point out, there are other potential targets on the board here. You can act on one of those now to just sort of pull them out of danger and make sure that they are never, in danger. The convoy lead, the convoy heavy 1 and the convoy heavy 2, those are the big trucks, the ones that are loaded up with ammunition and repair parts and, and fuel and all of that extremely dangerous stuff that we're trying to protect. You don't have to wait for me to put them under threat. You can just say, I'm going to go deal with that and do it. So what's the plan, folks?
I think I'm going to try and scatter the locusts in front of the breaker.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I can shoot them from a distance, right? Since I have a long range weapon.
Oh yeah. And I mean, having a Saint means you can fire this thing really huge distances. It's very good at calculating angles of deflection and so on.
Right.
The arc of descent is a fun thing for your mind to process right now.
So, I am going to. I think I'm gonna fire off some arrows from my bow to basically I want to scatter the beetles, make them get out of the way of the convoy.
Sure.
So I think that would probably be holistic and disturbing and shooting again.
I think that'll work. Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're kind of going on your sense of where they are without even a direct line of sight. I mean, you can be sort of firing indirectly in order to hit them, which having the holistic senses of the Saint does assist that. Good. Does anybody want to join in on assisting Shrike with that, or do you think Shrike's got it handled? This will be 4 dice for you, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And an assistant does what again?
Assist means you roll a single die that you can then give to the other pilot, to replace one of their bad dice. They can choose not to take it. So, it might actually just be a little boon for you, or it might be a problem for you if you roll poorly. But the idea behind it is that, if you don't trust that Shrike will get good dice from this, then you can say, look, here's one that you can have instead of one of your own.
I'm pretty
Shrike's
confident.
Probably got it.
Yeah.
Covered.
Yeah.
Hear that, Shrike? They're all pulling for you. How'd you roll? Let's see. Oh, plus blank, blank, blank. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
You got
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Excellent. What is the goal die from here?
So if I pick the 0, then I get what I want, but with a consequence, essentially. Is that how it works?
Well, in the case of a fight like this, what you do is you protect your target, but you don't rescue the target.
Okay.
The target is not destroyed. If it were a minus, the target would be destroyed. It would be taken for the enemy.
Right.
So it stays on the board. It's still under threat, but you have preserved it for now. And it does tick a beat off the clock, so it does move you toward the point where the enemy runs out of steam and gives up. But it it also means that you don't have control over the cost die. It's only when you play a plus that you get to choose the cost die. Otherwise, that's up to me, the game director, to decide what you have to pay for it.
Right. So I think I'll take the plus for my goal die.
Probably a good safe bet there. Yep. All right, good. So we take the plus for your goal, meaning you, with those arrows, effectively scatter the locust units. They stumble aside as explosions rain down among them, and the breaker bears down towards the center of that crater and then smashes across the edge of it, collapsing the broken pavement back down and smoothing it out enough that the convoy vehicles are able to keep up behind it. So they are clear of that threat. We're going to move the breaker over to the list of stuff you have rescued. Our beat count is going to go down.
I think we got one more.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the fight, right? That's great. So your
Yeah.
cost die. Let's talk a little bit about this because you only have blanks left for your cost die. Now, what is a blank cost die in a fight? In the world of human beings, that's an angst or angst. I always say that wrong. An angst point in the world of human beings. In the world of the saints, you have a thing called id. Id is the reptile brain. It's the parts of the saints that's doing all that stuff, like aiming weapons and receiving all this super sensory information and all that kind of stuff. There's parts of the brain of the saint that are not yours, and if they start to feel frustrated or whatever, then there's an increase in id. As long as id stays below your ego, you're fine. But when id gets higher than ego, the saint's sort of built-in mind starts to try and seize control away from the human pilot mind. So, this is the problem of two brains in one body. One of them with the agenda of I'm going to save the world, and the other one with the agenda of being, I remember that I was a death machine created for the destruction of everything, and you guys stuck your head in here and started telling me what to do. So we want that voice to stay quiet if we can help it. So a blank would give you a point of id. Oh, and here's another thing. Here's something I should have mentioned right away. Those of you who had angst coming into the situation, that should be added to your id. That transferred over from your human experience to the machine's experience. So Noah, you already have 1 point of id for that angst that you were carrying around before. And Salem, you don't have any.
I transferred it to id already.
Oh, you did already? Okay, so one more id. Interesting. So if you gain one more id from this blank, then where is that compared to your ego?
It'll be higher than my ego.
It'll be higher than your ego. Okay. So the good news is you can hang on. The bad news is if it were to go up again, you would not be able to hang on. So
Nice.
Do you want to take that blank die result, have your id rise, and have it be higher than your ego? You can spend, if you spend a point of ego, you're kind of in the same situation. You could spend your equipment. Spending your equipment will let you change the roll results. So you could decide, all right, I've fired my bow too many times. It's burned out. I'm going to toss it aside in order to defend myself from whatever. And then, you'll be able to turn that die roll because that's the item that you said you were using. So,
Right. I think I'll do that. So I fire off all these shots and I've basically taken out like a whole bunch of their things from a distance. So I think some of the wasps like swarm me up close and I have to bat them off with the bow, which damages it.
I like that. That's good. That's very good. Okay. So yeah, your cost is a blank, but then you have spent the bow, destroyed it in order to get rid of them, in order to turn that up to a plus. So no negatives other than the loss of your equipment. Cool. All right. So we are down to two beats left. The escort tank is the one that's under assault right now. There still are those convoy vehicles. I mean, it looks like this is going to be a quick, easy fight. You guys will be done and back in time for dinner. Oh, wait. There are alarms sounding in the distance. And very quickly, that information is relayed to you through the auspices of the Saint's mind and the high-tech machinery of the preservation force. They are detecting a signal coming in from above. It is another Venn signature, and it doesn't take them too long before they resolve exactly what it is and are able to start sending you images of this comet shrieking down out of the sky, just basically falling like an asteroid, just flames billowing and this huge trail of smoke following after it. as it gets closer and closer to you, aiming down and turning in its flight path like it's going to crash down right in the middle of you if it can do so. Your saint senses immediately pull your attention into it. And you can see that streaking blast of fire with the smoke radiating out of it. In the center of it, you see a face, a just smiling, placid, statuesque face, ringed by other smaller heads. Also, that same bland, benign expression on their faces, until it recognizes you. Its aim shifts ever so slightly so that it's now, aiming to fly right down in the middle of the three of you. Its eyes, all 12 of them, open wide and start to burn with another, with blue flames, and all of its 6 mouths hang open. And now, in addition to the roar of the flame and the screaming of the wind, now you start to hear this horrible electronic howling just coming at you up and down the frequencies in all directions. Nobody on the convoys can hear each other anymore because there's just all of the radio frequencies are jammed with this just cacophonous noise being sung by this thing as it screams down to crash in among you. The Saints computers recognize this as a Magnus unit named Mastima. It is Dominion rank. Magnus are the giant terror weapons. They are basically what Saints were before the Saints sort of had their wings clipped and were turned into the weapons of Earth. They come in 3 different ranks, and Dominion is the 2nd rank. So what that means is I am going to put 5 beats back on the clock, because this thing, taking it on, is going to be difficult. Another important thing to note about dealing with Magnus is that it also is harder to hit. Well, we'll get to that, I guess, when you try and act against it. And it gets to pick a target of its own. So it is now going to land on the lead convoy vehicle, a truck full of ammunition and explosives and so on. That is now the target that this comet has directed itself towards, so that it can crash down in the middle of the 3 of you, creating as much damage as it possibly can. And the escort tank is still getting harassed at the same time. So,
all right.
Looks like we're going to go into extra innings, or tune in next week. We'll see. But let's see what happens in this first clash, at least.
So Tiamat's. I'm sorry, Tiamat. I don't even know my own name. Tigana. I literally have to think of the book. Great book. Tigana is going to use their Tiamat. That's why I said it. The Tiamat missile array to basically make cover fire. I just want to distract the creature. I want to make it
fill the air
where everything is. Yeah.
Kind of like flak, just putting up a curtain of fire.
Exactly. Flak, but with missiles, like actual missiles, because it's necessary in an attempt to trick it and get the convoy out of the way so they can make their escape. I am going to use refugee, deceiving, and fearless. I'm just going to throw myself right into the battle. And, of course, the 4th die for
the Saint. Good.
For the Saint. So let me quickly
Mischief,
do that.
are you Mischief? Are you here are a couple of things you could do, Mischief. Actually, you could back up Tigana, being an assistant on this action. You could also work on rescuing the escort tank if you would prefer that be your thing, or you can pull another one of these convoy vehicles into the mix, sort of saying like, I move to protect that one from this monster, as a potential option there. So it's kind of up to you. I just want to make sure that we know what your interests are before we let Tigana roll the dice, in case you want to be helping out.
I'm not going to help Tigana. I think Tigana's got this again.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So far, I've been playing it that I'm not stepping in to help until we start failing, And then
Okay,
team up.
that's probably a good idea. All right, so you've rolled those dice. Now, let me tell you about that other thing about Magnus. When you have a trouble on your pilot, we talked about what trouble is last time. You have a disadvantage at a situation. That disadvantage is that I get to choose what your goal die is in that encounter, in that action. So Magnus are kind of the ultimate weapons. Everything that you can do, they can do a little bit better because they're not held back by things like mercy or human frailty, or anything like that. So just about any action you take against a Magnus is done from a place of trouble. So I am going to be choosing your goal die for this action.
And you get a great choice. Oh, I've got a negatives.
Fun choice. Yep.
A blank and a positive. Oof.
Yes. So yes, a plus, a blank, and 2 minuses. So obviously, I'm going to take one of the minuses because I want to crush that. I want to see that explosion. I want to see this, this thing fly out of the sky, land in that truck, and just crush it into oblivion. You can stop that by either, you have a couple options. If you've got an ego point to spend, you could spend an ego point. You've got your Tiamat missiles. You can check them off and say, okay, I emptied them out to do this. You could do both of those things and turn that minus into a plus if you want to, but that means you can't do that for anything else this action. In the course of an action, you could spend 1 point of ego and 1 point of equipment, either on the same die or 1 on the goal, 1 on the cost.
Oh, I like that. I am going to do both. I'm going to take an I'm spending a point of ego. So basically, as the missiles arc out and they're about to make a bunch of strafe. No, what is it called? Flak. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Bunch of flak. It looks like those missiles are about to hit the thing I'm trying to protect. So instead, I'm just focusing on as whatever direction I can make the missiles move, and they do. But I exhaust my missile array. It's completely out. So I'm going to turn that into a positive.
Right.
And does it count? So now it counts as a positive. That means I get to pick the cost, right?
Right. You get to choose the cost die. So now left to you, you have a plus, a blank, and a minus. So
I'm definitely going to go with that plus. So I almost ended up killing those people, but exhausted myself and saved them.
Yep. But in the cover of explosions is enough to distract the Magnus, to lead it off from its target, to do whatever. So that rather than crashing down on that lead convoy vehicle, it shoots underneath it as it hits the ground, still coming down like a meteorite, like just, just blasting explosion, debris firing up into the air and raining down in all directions. All the other vehicles are like swerving madly to try and get around this thing and avoid it. I mean, it hits the ground like it breaks itself, but that's not the kind of thing that stops a Magnus. Like the smoke hasn't even cleared before it's already like up and thrashing around and like spinning around and looking for targets. Now that you can see it up close, it has those 6 heads, but it also has like 4 pairs of wings. 6 arms that all end in long grasping claws. All of those mouths are screaming and shrieking at all times as it's just looking around for the next thing that it can attempt to destroy, which is probably that escort tank, since he's stuck at the back of all this and unfortunately is the last one to arrive at the impact of the Magnus. So Mischief, are you still going to see what you can do to keep that tank from being destroyed?
I am.
All right. What can you do in order to keep that tank from being destroyed?
I'm going to use brash fighting and protecting.
So you're coming in close? You're coming right in close?
Right into the Magnus's face.
All right.
So it's going to give me 4 dice.
All right. Let's see what we get. You are still in trouble because this thing is still in fighting trim.
3 blanks and a minus.
Okay. 3 blanks and a minus. Well, I mean, I've got to choose the minus because it's the Magnus. If it isn't able to destroy something, it's going to be very upset with me. So I'm going to take the minus for the gold die. You can buy that up with an ego point or with by burning up a piece of gear, or both to make it a plus.
I used an ego point earlier, so that means I can't do it again, right?
No, you can do it again. It's just in one roll of the dice.
Oh, one roll of the die.
Yeah. In one. What's the word for this? One task. One roll of the dice. You can spend 1 point of ego and use 1 point of gear, one piece of gear.
Okay, so I'm going to use my ego, and I'm going to use my interposing shield,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to burn up the interposing shield as it comes down on that convoy. I just get right directly in front of it with the shield up, and it just bears me down to the ground, shattering the shield as it does.
All right. Excellent. Yes. So it smashes the shield, knocks you down onto the ground. That is a plus for the goal, though. So you have rescued that tank. It speeds away to safety, rushing from the explosions and demolition of everything. Your cost die, however, must be a blank because there is nothing else left for you, and you've already spent stuff to buy it up. So that is a point of id on your saint, from the horrible indignity of being slammed into the ground, from the the damage that's been done to you there by that. All
right,
you have rescued the target.
So I still have 2 ego, so it's not higher than my ego yet.
Right.
Yes, good. Yep. Yeah, as long as your id is not higher than your ego, you're in good shape. Shrike is the one who might have some problems later.
Right.
All right. Well, I think we're at time though, so that this might have to be a to be continued as we try and finish up this fight against this thing. I don't know.
That's fine.
I like it. Yeah, I enjoyed a lot. Oh, I can't believe things turned around for us. We were doing so well.
You're still doing well. You're
thought.
You're wrecking all your equipment. That's I usually consider that a good mech fight. I mean, some of my favorite mech fights are ones where like in Eva, like there's always like empty the gun, throw it away, grab up a rocket launcher. They always do that thing. Yeah. In Gundam, always empty the gun, throw it away, grab another one. I finally figured out why that is. It's so they can sell you models.
Yeah, definitely. It's the accessories. I was about to say, yeah. They're
gonna show off all the accessories. If they won the fight with just the laser gun, they couldn't also sell you the sword and the axe and the option unit.
Right.
Yeah. Smart.
So this is my tribute.
Yeah. Well, speaking of selling you the sword and the axe and the accessories, go to robotcall.info, find out information about the Kickstarter, or probably in the link to the video and podcast you're listening to right now, and back this game so that you can see it come to life and play along with us. This is a lot of fun. All right. I'm excited. I hope I'll be honest. I wanted to assist once today, and it was just throwing some sort of severed head into the air so that Mischief could spike it into somebody else.
I think we still got time.
We still have time. I don't want to push it.
We have time.
I don't want to push it. I'm trying too hard. I know, but yes, it's great. All right, see everyone next Monday at our regular time.
Next Monday. See you then.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Dungeon Not Included. If you did, please tell a friend and leave us a 5-star review and encouraging comments on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help spread the word for new shows like ours. You can follow the latest from the Dungeon Not Included crew on Twitter at DNI Crew, and over at Facebook at Dungeon Not Included, or at our home on the Non-Productive Network at non-productive.com/DNI Crew, where you can find articles, character sheets, and Patreon exclusives, as well as our latest episodes. Thanks!
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.